Well, the previous administration, I think, was hampered by the fact that President Biden was just not really all there. I mean, he was old, he had problems, it made things very difficult. I will give him credit in that he, on occasion, would mention the U.S. defense commitment to Taiwan, yes. And I was happy to hear that when he would mention that. But then his staff would try to walk it back. His staff would immediately run to the media and say, well, he did that, what was it, last year they published their new official map.
Yeah.
And it showed, on their official map, it showed them claiming territory from almost all of their neighbors, including
yes.
Russia.
Including Russia,
you know, they have this like strategic relationship, but still China was saying, oh, by the way.
No limit partnership.
Right, it's a no limit, and as part of that, we're going to claim part of Russia.
Yes.
So it just shows the sort of blatant disregard for international norms, where China's just saying, hey, we don't care, we're going to claim everything that we claim. Awareness in the Trump administration is very great that there's a problem, and they're trying to figure out exactly what to do with it, but particularly in our military strategy, which has been, I mean, in terms of reacting to what China's doing, I think we've been kind of slow, but I think it's getting back.
Hi everyone, and welcome to the Freedom is Not Free channel, 新闻硬邦邦，听新闻最爽 channel. My name is Dan, and today I have an honor to come to the Institute of World Politics, IWP, and to talk to the dean of this organization, Dr. Robbins. Thank you so much for agreeing to take part in that.
My pleasure.
Let me tell you about Dr. Robbins a little bit first. He is a former special assistant of the Office of the Secretary of Defense, Dean of Academics at IWP, Senior Fellow in National Security Affairs at the American Foreign Policy Council. And he writes frequently for the Washington Times, the Washington Post, the National Review, and he is an author of 5 books. Mm-hmm. Dean Robbins, you're covering a lot of issues, including the current Gaza war, Israel-United States relationships, and the overall American strategy. First of all, because there are many Taiwanese people that are interested in world politics and in America's role in it, because the United States is the key partner of Taiwan's. Could you tell a little bit about IWP and why are you the top organization and the top institution to look into if they want to learn more about the United States strategy and the world politics?
Oh, sure. Well, IWP is a graduate school. It is a private independent graduate school of national security, intelligence, and international affairs located in Washington, D.C. We've been here for 35 years, fully accredited. We offer certificates, master's degrees, doctoral degrees. Our students are, some of them are like working professionals from various government agencies, the State Department, the Defense Department. Others are undergraduates who come here after they graduate to get their master's. Most of them are probably going into government service, or government adjacent, like contracting or other national security areas. So that's kind of the bread and butter of what IWP does. And the way that we approach education is from a perspective of realism, like to understand the realities of the world. There's not as much theory here. All of our faculty are scholar practitioners. They're people who have actually done the things that they teach about, whether it's in the intelligence community or the Defense Department or the White House or in Congress or as an ambassador. We have many professors running the gamut of all these different career tracks. And they approach it from a perspective of here's what really happens in government, here's what really happens in public policy, in national security strategy, and things like that. So it gives a very realistic kind of flavor to the kind of things that we teach here. And then when our students graduate and go to their jobs and whatever they do, they're that much further ahead because they're approaching it from a perspective of here's what's really going to happen. You know, there's a place for theory and for theoretical kind of academic things, but we're very much a professional school.
Do you accept any international students?
Oh yes, we have international students. We've had people from all over, you know, Europe, Asia, Africa, Latin America, everywhere.
And did you ever accept any Taiwanese students?
Yes, I think we've had students from Taiwan in the past. Not a lot of them, but we would like to have more from people who are from Taiwan. I think they would find a very nice atmosphere here, a very welcoming atmosphere. I mean, the school is a very tightly knit community in general. But also, I think the people here, the professors who teach here, are very pro-Taiwan, very interested in Taiwan, very alarmed at the actions of the Chinese Communist Party globally, what they're doing and how they're trying to influence the United States. So yes, there are many pro-Taiwan people here.
Yeah, I just had an honor to talk to Professor Tkachik. We call him Tacek.
Yes.
About Taiwan, and he's writing a new book about Taiwan and the level of expertise and knowledge of the United States policy towards Taiwan. I think if Taiwanese people are interested into learning more about that, more about the United States perspective, it's a very good organization to learn from.
Yes, and our founder and chancellor, Dr. Linchowski, recently wrote a very long article on what Beijing has been up to, you know, and the national security threats that are posed by Communist China.
So Taiwan and Chinese expansionism, Chinese aggression is definitely one of the focuses of the United States foreign policy right now.
Oh, absolutely. In foreign policy and in our curriculum, it's something that we talk a lot about. I know that the Trump administration is very focused on that, trying to find sort of the right fit of a China policy, but clearly taking into account the fact that China is engaged in a massive arms buildup, a massive naval buildup, space, cyber. I mean, in almost every part of the national security realm, you come face to face with Communist China.
Talking about that issue, how do you see the United States strategy evolving in Indo-Pacific, and what are the key differences between the current administration and the previous one?
Well, the previous administration, I think, was hampered by the fact that President Biden was just not really all there. I mean, he was old, he had problems, it made things very difficult. I will give him credit in that he, on occasion, would mention the U.S. defense commitment to Taiwan. Yes. And I was happy to hear that when he would mention that. But then his staff would try to walk it back. His staff would immediately run to the media and say, well, he didn't mean that. No, he did mean that. I mean, President Biden, for all his problems in office, he did have that moral compass and that awareness of U.S. national security commitment to Taiwan. And I think in the Trump administration, there's even more of that awareness and an even stronger awareness of a defense commitment. So that's part of it, you know, sticking to that commitment and understanding the importance of it, but also an increased awareness of the threat. In the Biden administration, again, there was some awareness of the threat, but now it's hyper awareness because looking at what China's doing, and not just their arms buildup, but also what they're doing, say, with the Philippines, you know, doing in the South China Sea.
Artificial islands. Harassing those ship vessels.
Yes, everything. I mean,
the underwater sea cables.
All of it. Yeah. They're pushing out. I mean, in every direction, which, you know, they're being very aggressive. I noted that what was it, last year they published their new official map, and it showed on their official map, it showed them claiming territory from almost all of their neighbors, including Russia.
Including
you know, they have this like strategic relationship, but still China was saying, oh, by the way,
no limit partnership.
Right, it's a no limit, and as part of that, we're going to claim part of Russia. So it just shows the sort of blatant disregard for international norms, where China's just saying, hey, we don't care, we're going to claim everything that we claim, including Taiwan, of course, which they've never given up in terms of you know, their claims of sovereignty. So the awareness in the Trump administration is very great that there's a problem, and they're trying to figure out exactly what to do with it. But particularly in our military strategy, which has been, I mean, in terms of reacting to what China's doing, I think we've been kind of slow, but I think it's getting back.
And I think the signals that are coming from the United States administration have become more clear. Before, as you just said, whenever President Biden has been talking about the United States commitment to Taiwan and to protect Taiwan, the Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, or the Asia Czar, Mr. Campbell, used to go back a little bit and talk about one China policy, that the United States still adheres to that and doesn't encourage Taiwan's independence. And those signals, they are having a little bit of mixed reactions in Taiwan, and sometimes are being used to propel that American skepticism, anti-American rhetoric in Taiwan. And these years, I think the United States administration has become more clear and more direct and straightforward while talking about Taiwan. And this is probably what Taiwanese people also need. They need to be encouraged to protect themselves, and they need to know that there is a very strong partner standing behind them.
Yes.
Dr. Robbins, I know that you are also an expert on Israel and Middle Eastern affairs, and many people in Taiwan are talking about that Taiwan should learn from Israel in terms of protecting itself, in terms of building very strong national security network. And Israel, just as Taiwan, is surrounded by larger hostile powers. And what do you think? What can Taiwan learn? Which lessons can Taiwan get from Israel's defense and national security?
It's an interesting comparison. I hadn't really thought about it as much until you told me that we were going to talk about it. We have two countries, smaller countries, founded around the same time, right?
Yeah.
And founded on freedom, the desire of people to be free, with many refugees at the founding, the same with Israel and Taiwan, people who came there in order to be free, and threatened by external powers, both Israel and Taiwan. The Israelis, they fought a number of wars that Taiwan hasn't had to fight, with people actually invading their territory, the different states that invaded them 5 times, and they successfully fought back and maintained their sovereignty and their freedom. Of course, Israel's a nuclear power, which Taiwan isn't. That's part of it. And I think another thing is that the things that are threatening Israel right now, while they are extensive, are maybe not as great as the threats to Taiwan, because Taiwan has one big enemy, or one big adversary, one big challenge, which is the Communist Party and their aggression, at least rhetorically, against Taiwan. So in that way, it's a little bit different. The Israelis have been very good at being able to take on their adversaries one at a time, or kind of push back that way. Taiwan, it's a little bit more of a challenge. I think what you can learn from the Israeli example, there are several things. One is sticking to that desire to be free and sovereign people.
Yeah.
I mean, the Israelis, they have been set upon by all of their neighbors at one time or another, who want to destroy them, like now we see with Hamas. I mean, they're pledged to the destruction of Israel. That's not going to happen because they're just a terrorist group. But with Iran, the Iranians, and firing missiles at
backing
Israel.
Organizations like Hamas.
Yes, backing them, and surrounding them with terror groups like Hezbollah and the Houthis and stuff. Of course, Hezbollah and Houthis have had bad days recently because the Israelis fight back. But number one is that desire to be a free and sovereign people and to defend that vigorously. And then the other part is to take action when necessary. Now, in the case of Taiwan, taking action is not as needed, because there aren't direct physical kinetic attacks happening all the time. We don't see terrorism, we don't see missiles being fired at Taiwan, that kind of thing. So it's a little bit different in that respect, but it doesn't mean it couldn't happen. So you have to plan for those things, whether it's missile defense or cyber defense or anti-terrorism or whatever it is, to secure yourself, to be ready for those contingencies. The Israelis are always ready, and they have to actually do things. Taiwan should also always be ready, because you never know when someone in China might decide, communist China, might decide, well, now we're going to settle this.
Yeah.
And then they just take action and settle it. So that preparedness and always being on top of it, that's critical. And that's been critical to the survival of Israel, because they've always planned ahead and thought strategically about the future threats that they face, and they have to stay ahead of those threats.
What do you think about Israel's mandatory military service? Because there has been a lot of backlash against the military reform in Taiwan. 2 years ago, they extended the military service, the mandatory military service, from 4 months to 1 year. In Israel, I think it's 32 months. It's even longer, almost 2 year period. And both Taiwan and Israel are highly urbanized societies, and they know how to fight in the city. So what do you think Taiwan can learn from Israel in terms of military reform and the overall societal attitude towards warfare?
Well, with the military service, it's probably necessary in both cases. And I think it serves not only a preparedness purpose, but also a national unity purpose. Yeah. People go through this. I mean, it's part of their life then. You know, they have bonded to the society and to that mission of defending the society, and people have common experiences of going through the military. And I think it's really important in that respect too. Of course, in Israel, we have the issue of the Orthodox who had previously been exempt from that service, but now they're bringing them in. And I think that's beneficial for Israel to get every sector of their society to be in there. And also an issue that Taiwan has a little bit of, but not as much as Israel, is the minorities issue of having different national groups serving together. But then you get to know people and it makes your society more cohesive and it binds things together better. So I think that's an extremely important part of this, and not just the military readiness, but also the national cohesion aspect of it. In the case of Taiwan, again, a difference with Israel is, in Israel, the people who serve and they may actually be called on to fight on the ground. I mean, we've seen that right now. They're in Gaza City. I mean, they're fighting. Some of them are dying. And so that creates kind of a different attitude as well.
Many of the Israeli compatriots are returning to actually fight. Mm-hmm. That's very patriotic.
Yeah.
Never expected that so many people that live abroad have like their own businesses, their own families, are coming back to actually take part and help their country.
Yeah, and they understand the existential threat, which, I mean, at some point you have to say, I'm going to defend my people, my place. And yeah, it's quite amazing how many people did that. In the case of Taiwan, you don't have the same immediacy.
Yes.
Like, people aren't actually fighting, but that could happen at any time. It could just, you know, in a variety of ways, whether it's cyber, cutting off energy, it's another scenario. Terrorism, what if suddenly terror incidents started happening, like the Intifada in Israel, where you know, Arafat was suddenly like having bombings all over the place. These kinds of things can happen, and in a country like Taiwan that's beset by this massive enemy that has long-term designs on taking it over, you just have to be ready for that. So yeah, the national service is critical.
Moving to the next question. Taiwan has been lucky enough not to fight in an active war for many years. And Israel's experience here is crucial in terms of, even though there are many wars that Israel has to take part in, but they are maintaining their democratic system. How do you think you can preserve a democracy when there is so much fighting around you?
Well, that requires a commitment, a cultural commitment to that type of thing. I don't think there's a particular problem in doing that. If your people are democratic, if that's your culture and that's your tradition, if it's durable. And again, we're talking about countries that were founded around the same time and have developed their democracies over time. I mean, in Israel, it's been a democratic experiment. Same in Taiwan, you know, just a way that democracies evolve. Same in the United States, for that matter. And I don't see a particular problem with maintaining democracy in wartime, so long as everybody is committed to the country. In the case of Israel, it's amazing how they've gone through so many different elections and coalitions and, you know, parties rising and falling. And then, of course, Prime Minister Netanyahu is kind of like presiding over this fractious coalition of different parties that he has to keep together. That's a testament to his own political leadership, but it requires that leadership. You have to have people in the country who are not only committed to democracy, but, you know, committed to leading and to defending the country and having the capability to do that. I mean, maybe Israel right now is just lucky to have a strong leader in this time of crisis. But it's funny because those times of crisis can actually create the strong leader, like the strong leader comes to the fore in that time of crisis. So I'm not particularly worried about Taiwan maintaining its democracy, except from the external subversion and the political warfare that the Communist Party is incessantly conducting against Taiwan in to attempt to systematically undermine your society.
And there is a saying in Chinese that means it's better to buy Taiwan than to attack Taiwan. And it's better to take Taiwan by lies than buying it. So
Yes.
there is, it gradually goes from attacking to buying and then to lying. And lying means ideological warfare.
Yes.
And the internet warfare, like many influencers trying to make Taiwanese people doubt their democracy, doubt their allies. And this is one of the dangers, I think, that not only Taiwan is currently facing, but also the United States with those actors trying to subvert. And do you have an opinion what can be done to prevent it or to fight back?
Oh, well, very much so. The political warfare has been ongoing throughout the free world, really. That undermining, that subversion, the messaging, the negative narratives, making people question the value of their own democratic society, or question their own traditions or their history, or the things that they value, and it's terrible. Yes, the United States, it's been going on for decades. This constantly undermining of our national story, of our national pride, undermining of our political system, of our economic system, the whole thing. And now there's a lot of pushback. I think people in the United States have finally realized, wait a minute, we don't want to feel bad about our country. We don't want to feel bad about ourselves so much. We're not guilty of this great historical sin. We're actually a great country, and we should behave that way. And so I think now, amongst many Americans, and President Trump especially leading that effort, is saying, no, we're not going to be ashamed of ourselves, and we're not going to hate our country. We're going to love our country because it's a great country. He's talking about the golden age of America, right? He's a positive and optimistic vision. And I think every democracy that's being attacked by these forces, and yes, Beijing does it to the United States all the time, trying to, wear us down that way. It's important to stand up and say, no, we are a great country, we're a free people, we have a wonderful history, we've built this amazing thing. I mean, look at Taiwan. It went from, hardly anything there at the beginning, and now it's this amazing, flourishing
private economy.
Private economy, just this fantastic thing that they just constructed. Same with Israel, by the way. It's Tel Aviv, which was sand dunes 100 years ago, and now it's like New York City. So yes, have pride in your accomplishments, have pride in your freedom and in your people and your culture. It's a great thing. And there are constantly these forces that are seeking through every means, whether it's through TikTok or, through the schools, taking over the media, infiltrating into politics, all of these ways that political warfare seeks to undermine and degrade and divide and create conflict. That's what they do. And you have, number one, have to be aware that it's going on. It's not just some organic thing that grew out. It's intentional, it's directed from abroad, and it is intended to destroy your society.
Yeah.
Once you understand those things, then you're 90% of the way to pushing back, because at the end of the day, you can just say, you know what? No. You can just say no, and that's it.
Thank you so much for saying this, because whenever I hear people from China or from Russia trying to criticize the United States or Taiwan or any other democratic countries, saying about very bad minority treatment, but if you look at China, how they treat their minorities, and right now there is no such a place in the world for the people not only people of different skin color, orientation, political beliefs, to express themselves freely as here in the United States or in Taiwan or in Europe. We are great places to be, and we're probably the places to be. And it is important to remember that. Final question would be about the US-Israel alliance and Israeli diaspora and Jewish diaspora here in the United States, because Jewish Americans secured very strong bipartisan support. And in times of hardships, the United States always helps Israel. What would your suggestion be for the Taiwanese Americans? How, and for Taiwan as a society, how to gain trust of the United States and how to gain that bipartisan support?
Well, this is very important, of course, with respect to Israel and Taiwan, the relationship with the United States as a backer of freedom and of free peoples and a supporter of maintaining the sovereignty of both of those countries. As you note, the Jewish diaspora has had a huge impact on Israel, in even the founding
Yes.
of Israel, and the support for Israel throughout the existence of Israel, and that relationship with the United States. And it's actually, it's not as like solid, like 100% over history. And if you look back at it, there have been ups and downs in that relationship. But at the end of the day, if there's an existential threat to Israel, the United States is there. I mean, the U.S. isn't going to abandon Israel if they're really in trouble, even if there are differences. They're still going to be there. And I think it's important for Taiwanese Americans to give that same support, through politics, through talking about the importance of Taiwan and maintaining that commitment. Because, as you know, whenever the topic comes up in politics, the Communist Party immediately starts complaining, they start denouncing, they start, say, how dare you, and this is a violation of our sovereignty and things like that. You just got to ignore that stuff. Stay organized, stay strong in the American political system of trying to influence U.S. policy and influence U.S. politics. Because in both cases, whether it's Israel or Taiwan, there is a definite, domestic, in America, group of people who will push back against that. I think in the case of Taiwan, a lot of it's funded by Beijing. Like they're funding the opposition to pro-Taiwan people in the U.S. With the pro-Israel, it's a little bit different. But people just have to stay organized. They have to stay active. In American politics, there is response. If you're an organized, active group and you've got politicians that you support and you've got policies that you want to push forward, our system responds to that. And if you don't do it, then you're basically giving up that ground to the other side. And the other side is well organized, they're well financed, it all comes from the Communist Party. And if you just allow them to get their narrative out there and don't push back against it, that will begin to influence people. And over time, you'll see that erosion. I mean, we've seen that erosion and unfortunately both parties, I think mostly in the Democratic Party, but some in the Republican Party. But on the other hand, you do have people who are committed to Taiwan, they're committed to the freedom of it, committed to our mutual economic exchanges and other things like that. And also who just want to push back against China, seeing China, communist China beating up on the little guy, right? That's a big thing in America, the underdog. Yeah. They say, here are free people trying desperately to be free, and that's a compelling cause. That's a case that Americans will respond to. So I think that's really important. And also Taiwan as part of an Asian Pacific defense network that has been growing. We see more activity from Japan now. We're seeing, things like AUKUS and, the Australians getting activated.
Also Quad.
Right, the Quad.
With India.
We see, and Indonesia is getting more aware of the threat. Of course, the Philippines and Vietnam are on the front line.
Trilateral agreements between Japan, Korea, the United States, and Japan, the Philippines, and the United States.
Yeah, and we see more. ASEAN is starting to pay more attention to things. With India, it's a little bit more complicated because there are many different issues there. But I think from a national security standpoint, the Indians are well aware that China's a problem. So
and China is also claiming their territory.
Yes, I said every one of their neighbors, including India. And of course, then they're throwing rocks at each other. But that was kind of funny. For Taiwanese Americans, keeping this issue salient, keeping it in front of politics so that policymakers know about things. I mean, keeping it in the debate, organizing, making sure that American politicians who care about this issue are out there actually doing something about it, making sure that our defense agreements are strong, and also the capabilities, because when you look at China's naval buildup especially, but also the other things they're doing in cyber warfare and space and nuclear, this is very disturbing from a Pacific security point of view. Like, why are they building aircraft carriers? There's only, an aircraft carrier is a strategic offensive weapon system. It's a blue water, as they call it in the naval circles. It's a blue water strike capability. Why are they doing that? There's only one reason. It's because they want to project power out. And, who's first on that list, right? It's Taiwan. So awareness of not only the importance of defending the sovereignty and independence and freedom of Taiwan, but also drawing attention to the fact that China is an aggressor state. And they are building up the capabilities to express that, and if we don't push back against that, there will be a problem.
And for everyone who is interested in IWP, there is information in the description below. And remember that freedom is not free.